Welcome to Heartbreak to Healed podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Batiste from Rejected Hearts Club.
And I'm your host, Sophie Delcourt with Healing Soul Spiritual Center.
And we do the heartbreaks
so you can heal.
Welcome to Heartbreak to Healed. This is our first episode and we're so excited that you guys are joining us. My name is Jamie and
I am Sophie.
And we are here today to basically talk about heartbreaks and how you heal, right?
Yes.
So we wanted to introduce ourselves and let you know exactly why we will be your go-to people for your heartbreaks and how you healed. And my co-host Sophie is amazing with the healing part. I'll be the one that's going to kind of guide you throughout the way and maybe have funny stories, sad stories, whatever. We're here for you. With that being said, we'll jump right into it. So again, my name is Jamie Batiste. I ended up starting a business from heartbreak a few years ago where I had somebody break up with me in the middle of the day at a hotel without my knowledge, and it was the saddest thing ever. It was stupid. And after that, I went through a few more heartbreaks, and the last one was with somebody breaking up with me in therapy. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can't even with that.
And then he moved to Tokyo without my knowledge, and we lived together. So here we go with breakups.
I know.
So with that being said, do you want to tell the people a little bit about you and how you can heal these fabulous people in the world?
Yes. So I'm Sophie Delcourt. I am actually a Reiki master. So I go in and help people heal, assist them through energetic systems, talking through any issues that they may want to talk through. Since a lot of this hurt gets trapped in our bodies. We don't even realize it just because it's a concept that's not much spoken about. But in the way of like holding on to grudges, having triggers, things of that nature, that's where it exposes itself. And that's where I come in to help assist people heal. And that can be from anything. But in this facet, we are talking about breakups. Mm-hmm. And I've gone through mine, let me tell you. So I've been, I was boy crazy since I was a teenager, and I've had a couple of marriages now, and have been through some really, really tough times. I think my first step into realizing what it meant to heal, I didn't even know it at the time though, was with my last breakup, which was a divorce. And I had the usual where I was in pain because of the fact that I was being treated poorly. Mm-hmm. Terrible things were said, a lot of neglect, staying away from each other, all that typical mumbo jumbo.
So with that, and people basically mentally abusing you, things like that, mm-hmm. How did you move forward and say to yourself, this isn't right, this isn't the person for me, and how did you get out of that relationship?
Honestly, it was self-realization. And I'll tell you what, that's been difficult for me actually for a long time. And it is difficult for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we are basically trained, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, by way of culture, social mm-hmm. media, outside influences, that we're just too hurt and we're not worthy enough. But in those stark moments, you get to a point of almost survival mode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because it's tough emotions. And I hit that point finally with that last divorce. And it hurt at first, especially because mm-hmm. he ended up coming around to tell me that he was actually still in love with his ex-wife.
That's fun.
Yeah, and I didn't know about that, and that he had actually loved her the whole time. So, of course, why would you even want to get married?
Exactly.
Right? I know you know what I'm talking about, some of you out there.
Exactly. So with you saying this was another divorce, did you ever feel guilty for being divorced? Or I know a lot of people will hold this divorce word over their heads like it's so bad versus a breakup where it's like boyfriend, girlfriend, whomever, but a divorce always seems like it's kind of heavy, especially for women, of just having that divorce title.
Yes. So not with the second divorce. I did have a first divorce. When I was young, I got married when I was like 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so, and he was 11 years older than me. You know, and it wasn't a healthy situation. Not at all. But I was young, I was dumb, and I was also trying to live up to the ideal that I saw my parents in. So my parents got together when they were 13 and 14 years old. They were married by 17 and 18. I came just months later, and they are still together.
That's insane.
So talk about idealism. You find somebody so young, and you're just still with them after so many years.
Exactly.
So it was actually at that time, I didn't realize this, but really just me trying to live up to this ideal is what it was. And I held on to that. Now, when it came down to the second divorce, though, as soon as he told me that he had loved somebody else the other time, it really hit me in a whole new way about how you can't always trust everybody, right?
Very true.
But why do I hold on to that then?
Yep.
So he wronged me, period. That talk about being played. Wow. You know, let that go. You have to stop and realize in that moment, somebody straight up betrayed you. Why am I going to hold on to that just because the course of action means divorce and requires paperwork?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yes. Now, I know that there's ideals out there. There's, religious standards and everything, the philosophies that people go by when it comes to devotion, loyalty, the sanctity of marriage and all of that. Yes, totally understand that. And really, I want to support it because of the fact that the purpose behind marriage is to be with that one for the rest of your life.
Right.
Otherwise, there's no sense in getting the M word involved.
Exactly.
Right? But when you've been hurt that much, just because we created a piece of paper doesn't mean to harbor it inside of yourself. This is where you have to accept if you made a mistake, whether intentionally or not. And of course, in my sense, no, I was a wife, right? No, that you have to let it go and forgive yourself.
And that's what we want to help other people do in this life, in this world, with this podcast, is the fact that sometimes it is hard to let go and forgive yourself and love yourself even harder than you were while you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
So when you're saying that you had betrayal within this relationship, how did you move on from that? Or how did you take time until you got into the next thing? Or what did you do in order to say, you know what, that was wrong and I'm going to leave it where it was and I'm not going to bring that into my next relationship?
Honestly, I did not have to wait. When you get to a point where you have such a realization about yourself, you can instantly heal. Now, that doesn't say that there's like no bumps in the road and life is all, flowers and fields and stuff like that. No, there's still bumps that happen. But I trusted myself.
Good.
I was able to let go because of the fact that I was able to accept that this person did something bad and I was not going to hang on to the positive things because I hoped for something. No, I needed to take the reality of the situation, allow myself to understand that, and move forward. So I instantly moved forward. I went out, I didn't care. I went out on a few dates and met some people. It did not matter because he betrayed me.
Yeah.
Why am I going to continue to attach my feelings and my life to somebody who treated me like that?
Well said.
No.
Well said.
I'm the only one that can hold on to hurt, just like you, right? So, no, you got to let go of that. That situation's now in the past, whether that was a day ago, whether that was a week ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, that situation's now in the past. The only person that can hold on to that hurt now is you. Right?
But the hardest part is letting go. Like, I know I've been in situations where it's like, okay, I've been with somebody for 3-4 years that I thought was my person, and now they're no longer with me. And then it's kind of that, well, what do I do now kind of thing.
Yeah.
I am very independent, for those that actually know me. Super, I can do what I want in this life. I'll do it when I want. But when I'm in love, I am in love. I'm in it to win it. And then when that's taken away, it is kind of that, what could I have done better? And then sometimes you do hang on to that, and you're still trying to text this person, or maybe we could have one less hookup and this and that. But my one thing that I always preach, even in my other business, is never redate. Sure, you do have some situations that work out, but I highly recommend, there's a reason why you're no longer together. Or again, breakups in relationships can be friendship breakups, family breakups, which we will get all into down the line. But when you start redating that same person, again, you broke up for a reason. And so in your situation, if you would have went back to this person, do you think it would have gotten worse just because somebody's saying, I want you back, I want you back? That's to fulfill their needs, not to fulfill your needs. Period.
I've had a couple of rules in my life, and a couple of them that have stayed for sure. And one of them is no redating. There's no second chances. And the reason why is, first of all, there's no reason to put yourself through the turmoil.
Right.
You already know what's going to happen. There's now established behaviors, understandings. There's going to be projected concepts that are coming from you to the other person, and vice versa, that stick. To change is really, really, really hard. So if you're going to choose to move on, you need to move on, or you're holding on to that pain and you can't move on. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Plus, now coming from this perspective, when it comes to the healing side of it, it puts you in a position where you realize that everything that happens in life is a lesson for growth.
Agree.
So why are you going to needlessly keep a hard lesson going that you need to learn from, move on from, and do better next time? So stop hanging on to the past. And honestly, when it comes down to it, I actually just had this epiphany not too long ago. You know, the biggest issue I think really is behind it, I mean really, if you stop and think about it, it's not the emotions attached to the hardships of that problem, okay? I think the emotions are actually our excuse. Our biggest problem is actually the concept of change. It changes your life to go through a breakup, because now you got to figure out what your day-to-day looks like, who you're going to talk to throughout the day, who you're going to text about something, who are you going to share thises and that's with and do stuff with. Those are major though, because it's an everyday behavior that you've got to change. And a lot of us have a hard time with change.
Not this girl. I'd change it up every day. I would move every week if I could. And so, but like you're saying, change is like a complete life changer for the majority of people. And so when you're removing what was constant and consistent, it's like their whole world got flipped upside down, like Will Smith in that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But it's just, if you don't know yourself, and if you don't remember how to get yourself back, then you are going to have a harder and longer journey to heal yourself.
Yes.
But when you go into something and start remembering who the F you are, and when you get out of something, if somebody tried to break you down or you feel broken, you will be way better within, I'd say, like after the 3rd month of trying to heal, you start getting into a better constant and consistent of yourself. And for me, I was working out like 2 or 3 times a day, and that helped with my mental and physical. And if I'm going to go hang out with other guys, it's like, well, my body's amazing now, so I can get back out there. But I still took time for me. And in my last breakup, I didn't date or didn't want anybody else in my life for at least 2 years. I did nothing with any guy at all, because I had to heal for myself. And I figured the next person that I kissed or the next person that I dated, I'm like, that's going to be my husband. And I'm randomly a married girl now. So I healed and I moved to the next level. So.
Yeah. And that's so important though. And now there also needs to be an understanding as we go through this, is that everybody heals differently.
Correct.
We're all walking different paths. We do different things. We have different perspectives. We come from different backgrounds. Yep. All the stuff comes into play. Your path is your path. So your healing is your healing too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, absolutely. You take pointers, understandings, things of that nature. So for example, you're taking 2 years off because you need to focus on you. Whereas in my last moment, it was, I just got betrayed. He literally means nothing. I'm moving on. And I did it instantly. 2 different pathways.
Yeah.
2 different pathways.
Same result.
Yes, absolutely. I'm now happily married. It's been, a few years now. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's all right. And we also need to respect that of one another. Now, granted, you got people running in like, I'm a weirdo for having that instant realization. Some people, though, do go for the rebounders because that's actually part of their healing process.
Yeah.
And they're not actually over their ex, and then things get complicated.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah.
We've all had rebound situations. And then if you think back of when you did have rebounds in your life, how many times did that rebound actually work out? And are you actually using that person for your own benefit and then somebody else gets hurt? So now you're the bad guy, meaning what somebody else just did to you. So it's like rebounds, we've all been there, done that. But at this point in our lives, it's like, think before you do, because you also could be hurting somebody else that you don't realize it just for your benefit.
Yes.
So,
and
I'm guilty of that.
Well, I mean, we all have to learn it, right?
Yeah.
Life isn't easy.
I know.
And there's always a first step in something new in any stage in life, no matter what you're doing. Relationships is one of them. The breakup part is the other part of it. And sometimes it takes a genuine while to learn this stuff. So it's nothing also to be ashamed of. If you've struggled with it, it's nothing to be ashamed of. This stuff is not easy. Because like case in point, with the rebound, you want to know what I see that as?
What?
Having a hard time with change.
Yeah.
You're putting somebody
a
within
filler.
that role. Yeah, that they fill that role to help because the change is hard. And then you don't have to also sit with yourself and the emotions. So you get to distract yourself from the emotions. So it's just a placement. But the good news is that discussing things like this is how we get to realize that sometimes we just hurt, and sometimes the actions we take can hurt others. They aren't healthy, but it's still us just trying to cope and to heal. So this is another form of allow yourself to forgive yourself. Allow yourself to learn yourself. If you've done things like this before, we all have. Now you can take a look back and realize, though, that was your signal to yourself that more healing's needed. And that's okay.
And to spin off that, I would say allow yourself to just be and know that it's okay.
Yes.
Because sometimes we don't sit with ourselves. Sometimes I'm a busybody, so it's like, let me have every distraction in the world to not have to deal with my own problems or my own issues, or so I don't have to think about it. Let me just distract my mind. And then you were with me the past few months where I was kind of going through something hard, not a breakup, thankfully. But then because my body wasn't able to just like simmer down and relax and actually process different things, I struggled with panic attacks. So it catches up to me for not actually being and sitting with my emotions because I'm so used to being distracted.
Right.
So unfortunately, when you don't take care of you, it can hurt you in a physical way. So
it's actually what that concept is really just manifestation.
Yeah.
And it's because, the concept of it gets developed within the mind, and then it's running through the energy system. And you've got this basically a domino effect that comes in, and then it manifests in your reality. And that's how, a lot of times people don't realize, panic attacks, yes, regular anxiety attacks that are going on. you're suddenly getting sick more often. You have chronic fatigue that's come into play. And now all this other stuff starts to just compile as you don't address the root of the issue.
That's so freaking true. And even just talking to you, I'm thinking about my last breakup where it was like I was so under so much stress and emotions. Like I remember I could not get rid of a cough. Like I was just sick. And I'm like, what is going on? But it's because I didn't take time for me to just be and figure out these emotions. But I was more reactive where it's like, I have to go work out. I have to do this. Let me go distract myself and hang out with friends versus let me take a minute to step back and like process the situation instead of trying to text him and see what's going on. Or you have to take time for yourself. Like if there's one thing you guys get out of this, it's take time for you and know that that is literally more than okay.
Absolutely. That is number one, which includes, let's say you're on the other end of it. You didn't do the breakup, right? That stuff hurts to be the one who is rejected, right? That hurts. You've got to accept the fact that yes, you have been rejected for whatever the reason is, okay? But you need to sit with those emotions. You can't bury them, right? You can't bury those emotions. You bury those emotions and they get stuck within the body and then they manifest as other things, whether that's now you're angry all the time. You are tired all the time. You're getting sick in different ways. You've picked up some random disease, that sort of a thing. And I'm not talking like an STD, come on now, guys. But I am talking about other, though, chronic diseases that manifest themselves within the body because the body is overwhelmed by the energetic hold and the emotional hold to the situation. So you have to release those emotions. So that means, guess what? It's okay to cry.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be okay, right? You don't want to wallow in it, right? You can't let yourself wallow in it. That's a different kind of perspective, which is the person taking a victim mentality and hurting themselves in that regard. That now they're associating their identity with this rejection, with this heartbreak or whatever the treatment was. Let's say you're the one to walk away. You're still associating yourself and hanging on to that and making it part of your personality and who you are. You have to be able to let that go because it was a situation that happened to you, not who you are.
Right.
Big difference. Big difference.
So within your past lives, whatever, I've always been the person that's been broken up with. And obviously I know how that always have felt for me. So for you, walking away from marriages, were you the one to basically say, okay, this isn't right? Or how did those conversations go?
Technically, yes. Basically, though, it was one of those things where I had been treated so poorly until I had to say,
bye.
It's time to say goodbye.
Jesus.
Yeah. And so I was pushed and pushed and pushed.
Right.
Which, hindsight and, now being in the field that I'm in on top of it, I can see what was actually going on as well with that person as well. So their trauma, their problems, what they were doing, why they were doing that, because they have their own walk of life to live. They have their own lessons to learn. And them doing what they were doing and causing the situation for whatever the reason. And in their timeline, I had to be the one to finally say enough's enough.
So when you left, were you ever holding guilt within your heart for these things? Or how did you, I know you said the last time you're like, okay, that's enough. I'm out. We're good. I'm good.
Yeah.
But in other relationships, did it take you longer to process and to heal, or how did that go?
Yes, and I took the unhealthy route too, and originally used jumping back into stuff as a distraction, something to replace it, because I had been so hung up on the relationship, and it was my day-to-day, right? Changes. So prior to, yes, I would struggle with that because then it wasn't even so much that I had to leave, but it was from that perspective, why did they treat me the way that they did? Why didn't they just leave then, if that was the case? Why did they fake me out? Why is it okay to treat me so poorly? Am I really that bad of a person?
So why do you think, whether you're the breaking up with person or the person who got broken up with, why do you think we always, no matter what you're in, why do we question ourselves? Especially when we know in some situations like are 1,000% not our faults. Why do we go to the whys instead of just being like, okay, yeah, like that's on them and they needed to move on for other things and I'm good? Why do we question ourselves instead of just knowing that we were good enough?
That's a deep
It
question.
is. We'll have to ask our guests that.
So it's very cultural. It starts from when we're young. Think about how we are raised. Think about how you watched your parents work.
Yeah, that's true.
And
it
how
starts with the foundation.
How they're treated as employees. Most of our parents are employees. There's going to be a lot less business owners to see that different type of perspective. Keep going. You get into school. How is that dynamic between students and teachers? And how's your mind frame set?
Authority. I have to get stuff done in order to meet a certain standard.
And everything that goes wrong is your fault.
Correct.
Okay? So keep going. Now you get into the work world. Here we go again. Right? Now, that's just the basic semantics of functional life that now is already pushing that element into you. So this is how you're behaviorally trained. Now let's take into account, were your parents religious? And what was that organization like that you were part of? Was it the same concept? Okay, so now that's another underscore. Now you got multiple people within this concept. Think about, heck, even just how the family dynamic works. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, authority versus basically the child. Now you've got friends once you get to school.
Yep.
So now, and you've got, and in kids' life is tough in its own right? Remember that stuff. So now we've still got that concept when you think of cliques, popularity, who's the cool kid, all the way down to that causing, bullying and whatnot, right? So you have this constant hierarchy of everything that's wrong with you.
Wow.
And we haven't even gotten to social media yet.
Oh my gosh, exactly.
We haven't even touched on that. So do you see how we are literally molded
to meet X standards?
Correct. And if something doesn't go right, you were wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's not necessarily the case. It might be your situation, and it might suck. And it's life.
It always sucks.
But that doesn't mean that you were always wrong. And we're also taught to be in a position of not to forgive yourself either, because of these concepts that what you did was wrong and it was wrong. And if you're somebody who forgives yourself, and let's say you're talking to somebody about the situation and you happen to be one of the rare ones that understands this and lives by it. Okay, if you present it wrong, if you communicate it to somebody else in a different way, they're going to see it now through their framework. And who knows, they're going to think like maybe you're a sociopath because you have no guilt, which means you have no heart. This is real though. Yeah. Like think about it. Like, if just whatever. Think about what a lot of people probably thought about me saying what I did about my divorce.
Because again, we hold that word so strongly, or I don't know if it's like that in these days, but again, how you're talking about growing up, like my parents were together 24, 26 years or so, and they got divorced. And with on my dad's side, like being super Catholic and things like that, it was like you're shamed in the community because you have the D mark on your forehead. Right. Versus, was my mom going to stay in something that was abusive and cheating and things like that? She did for kids. I don't agree with that because I learned from my foundation of I know what I don't want growing up and being in a relationship and what I will not tolerate.
Yeah.
But just having a stigma of a divorce does not make you a bad person. There's situations where it absolutely has to happen. It's still that feeling of guilt.
It is, but you know, you got to understand still this really is tied to cultural behaviors and things that we project onto ourselves, all these rules that we got to follow. And then if we break the rules, we're in trouble and we got to feel bad about it. You know, that's literally how we're trained. But when it comes down to it, what's most important is not the rules to follow in society, it's taking care of yourself. You can't be an amazing person and have a happy family or a happy life if you're not happy because you're more concerned with following the rules than taking care of yourself and giving yourself self-love and self-respect. That's huge.
And how we will wrap this up today is take care of you.
Yes. You are most important. You do not take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. You must love yourself first.
Always love yourself first, and everything else comes how it needs to.
It will. It will. And it does.
With that being said, thank you guys for watching episode 1 of Heartbreak to Healed. Again, I'm your host, Jamie Batiste with Rejected Hearts Club.
And I am your host, Sophie Delcor with Healing Soul Spiritual Center.